Good evening. Welcome to Storytime with Jason. I'm Jason, and this is our video reading of Winnie the Pooh. It was created back in the mid 1920s by two men, A. Milne and E. H. Shepard. A. Milne was the author, E. H. Shepard was the illustrator, and it was first published in 1926. And this is an introduction to the story, so I strongly encourage you to listen to it. But if you want to just go ahead and hurry up and get to the actual story, go ahead and feel free to skip to the next podcast. The couple housekeeping notes that I want to talk about specifically with this book. I have a master's degree in creative writing, and I love talking about all these craft elements, and Winnie the Pooh is just full of really interesting things to discuss. So we're going to do that real quick. It won't take too long, and I truly feel that it will enhance your understanding and your listening experience for the story. The story was written over 100 years ago in England. So that being said, the language is much different than we are used to here in 2024 in the United States. I do my best. Sometimes I fumble with it because I want to make sure it's as it's written on the page. And sometimes, sometimes it's just a little bit like, wait, what did they say? But don't worry. I try to eliminate any ambiguity without actually changing the substance of the story. The second thing is that Winnie the Pooh, by today's standards, would almost be considered a metafiction. And all metafiction is just a fancy word for saying that the book draws attention to the fact that it is a book. You don't just get pulled into it like Harry Potter, right? You get pulled into it and you don't realize you're reading a book. And Winnie the Pooh does this in a couple interesting ways. Christopher Robin Milne is the author's child in real life. So Christopher Robin is a character in the book. Christopher Robin Milne is the son's full name, his child's full name. Real life, Christopher Robin Milne had several stuffed animals, including a stuffed bear named Edward Bear and a little stuffed piglet that Christopher Robin Milne would keep in his pocket and take with him to school. This story is written as the author reading the story to Christopher Robin Milne, with the lead character being Christopher Robin. Sometimes in the story, the stuffed animals and around Christopher Robin, who are sitting listening to the story being read, interact and with the narrator, and are part of the story being read about them. So the stuffed piglet, the stuffed Pooh Bear, all of them, they know a story is being read about them. It can be confusing sometimes, but the only alterations I've made to the story are the occasional dialogue tags where some ambiguity's there, and I just will say like, oh well, Pooh said, when in the text you might be able to tell because of the cadence, but it might be a little ambiguous if I'm reading it. That's it. We are ready to start reading the story. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoy reading Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne. Introduction. If you happen to have read another book about Christopher Robin, you may remember that he once had a swan, or the swan had Christopher Robin, I don't remember which, and that he used to call this swan Pooh. That was a long time ago, and when we said goodbye, we took the name with us, as we didn't think the swan would want it anymore. Well, when Edward Bear said that he would like an exciting name all to himself, Christopher Robin said at once, without stopping to think, that he was Winnie the Pooh, and he was. So, I have explained the Pooh part. Now I'll explain the rest of it. You can't be in London for long without going to the zoo. There are some people who begin the zoo at the beginning, called way in, and walk as quickly as they can past every cage until they get to the one called way out. But the nicest people go straight to the animal they love the most and stay there. So when Christopher Robin goes to the zoo, he goes to where the polar bears are, and he whispers something to the third keeper from the left. And the doors are unlocked, and we wander through the dark passage and up steep stairs until at last we come to the special cage. The cage is opened, and out trots something brown and furry. And with a happy cry of, "Oh, bear!" Christopher Robin rushes into its arms. Now, the bear's name is Winnie, which shows what a good name for bears it is. But the funny thing is that we can't remember whether Winnie is called after Pooh or Pooh after Winnie. We did know once, but we have forgotten. I had written as far as this when Piglet looked up and said in a squeaky voice, "Well, what about me?" "My dear Piglet," I said, "the whole book is about you." "So it is about Pooh," he squeaked. You see, what it is he's jealous because he thinks Pooh is having a grand introduction all to himself. Pooh is the favorite, of course. There's no denying it. But Piglet comes in for a good many things which Pooh misses. Because you can't take Pooh to school without everybody knowing it. But Piglet is so small, he slips into a pocket where it is very comforting to feel him when you're not quite sure whether twice 7 is 12 or 72. Sometimes he slips out and has a good look at the ink pot, and in this way he has got more education than Pooh. But Pooh doesn't mind. Some have brains and some haven't, he says, and there it is. And now all the others are saying, "What about us?" So perhaps the best thing to do is to stop writing introductions and get on with the book. A